Hey guys, my name is Ryan.
And my name is Miska.
Welcome to Overwatch Central. So we wanted to talk about this for a while now. The patch that has come out recently has been fairly interesting in terms of how it's affected a lot of people. Now, in terms of talking about the meta, we don't just want to be soldiers amazing at the moment. We'd like to see it as more of a ripple effect and how specific changes like that affect everything as a whole. And we have seen something rather interesting happen with triple tanks. This was something that's been around for a little bit. It's sort of lingered, but are we going to see it more now? In this video, we're going to go why that may be, and also answer the question, are triple tanks better or worse now with this patch? So to begin with, we're going to look at how triple tanks were before, and then look at the specific related patch notes that have made this topic rather interesting.
Right, so we can just jump straight into the patch notes and sort of go top to bottom, see which changes actually affect triple tanks and see which ones don't. So let's begin just with the hero balance changes, of course. We're gonna ignore the other stuff, basically, at least for now. And Ana is first on our list, of course. And the Nano boost will no longer increase move speed of the hero that is boosted. This is pretty big. I don't know if you remember, but Reinhardts were boosted quite a lot before. They won't be boosted as much now, as you can kind of run away from them or create distance between yourself and the Reinhardt a little bit easier. This was also big for stalling with triple tanks though, so will it disappear more because of that as well? You know, the whole Winston ultimate with the Nano boost. This is the sort of thing you have to keep in mind, and this is what this affects. But yeah, it's kind of an indirect effect as it's not a tank that's being nerfed or buffed here, it's actually Ana. Next up is of course D.Va, and I mean that's a tank and a direct effect on the triple tank meta. Ultimate cost has been decreased by 20%, sort of making it what it was before, you know, so it's easier to get that call mech back. And this is just to have the call mech not be affected by this general ultimate charge change. Anyway, the mech health was increased to 200, which was formerly 100, and the armor remains at 408 total. Movement speed while firing has been increased by 25% as well, so overall D.Va has been buffed, which adds to the whole tank meta of course, so this sort of brings the triple tanks in favor. Next up is Lucio. He's not really related to this, and the small 10% heal per second decrease is not really worth talking about, so we're just gonna skip that for now. Mei, on the other hand, has had her ultimate cost increased. So overall ultimates have been nerfed, of course, and the frequency of ultimates will just be a little bit lower. And this nerf to Mei will just add to that even more. And Mei was actually quite good against triple tanks. I don't know if you remember, but Mei was actually run quite a lot against triple tanks, throwing out the ultimate and freezing them made for some easy headshots, which, you know, helps quite a lot, especially on something like Control. Alright, the Mercy change is not something we're gonna talk about either. Pharah, it's pretty much the same thing here. It doesn't affect this too much, and overall, like we concluded in our last video as well, these Pharah changes maybe don't matter as much as they seem to do actually. Anyway, moving on to Soldier 76, and he has kind of had an impact here. The increased damage might help dealing with tanks just a little bit at least, or at least taking down things like Reinhardt shields and so on. But again, Soldier 76 wasn't really used overall against tanks, right? So even though this is a Soldier 76 favorite meta, it doesn't actually help that much. We're coming towards the end here, and we have the slight Widowmaker buff and all that. We have the Torbjorn as well, of course, but we're not gonna mention those. We're gonna go right on to Zarya, who seems to have been nerfed, you know, if you look at these patch notes. But a lot of people have pointed out that her main fire, her beam, has actually been changed. But overall, Zarya has actually been buffed, as in her DPS has been increased just a little bit. By how the beam works now, it's easy to track targets and you just do more damage. Right, so we have these patch notes and they don't really look like they bring out tanks that much, but actually they kind of do. And it's kind of hidden in there, but it's hard to see at first. And it's definitely not the first thing that either of us thought about first time we saw these patch notes, right?
Yeah, definitely. You kind of need to see it to believe it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. It's more about an over-time development as well of the meta rather than an instantaneous change. And this is what the meta is all about. Every time the game changes, you have to discover what's working and how the ecosystem, synergies and combos have changed. So right now, only like 1 week into this sort of competitive meta changes, nothing will really settle just now.
Yeah, to be fair, I think that's a problem with Overwatch as a whole. We've seen it with the rank system, where it's been in the PTR, people have gone, yeah, this is alright, and then after a couple of weeks, people have gone, actually, no, this isn't good at all. It's kind of like wearing a new pair of shoes, right, in terms that you need to wear them for a little bit before you sort of realise that they are uncomfortable for you, and I think Overwatch's main crux in a lot of situations tends to be that. From face value, it might look pretty good, but after a couple of weeks there might be problems that you never even considered being underlying in the meta, the rank system, the Overwatch League, so on and so forth. There's a lot of things that could cause problems here. So we've spoken about triple tanks before, and we've had a look at the patch notes and how that affects them and almost has buffed them in a sense, I guess. But now I definitely think it's worth highlighting what the pros are doing. Of course, every time you want to look at something like this, you want to see what the best players in the world are doing in terms of compositions. And we need to look no further than Ninjas in Pyjamas. Now, Ninjas in Pyjamas, for those that don't know, a team that pretty much coined the triple tank strategy and have used it throughout things like E-League, which was a couple of months ago, which was a massive tournament, biggest tournament so far as well, and made use of Reinhardt, Roadhog, Zarya. Now, in E-League as a whole, we saw very fat teams. What I mean by fat teams are a lot of sustain. We saw Mei, we saw Lucio, who was a lot stronger than he has been brought down a little, as Miska went over earlier. And we saw Anna using the opportunity of all of the damage being taken to these fat heroes to charge her own ult and then throw it on a Reaper, for example, or for a Reinhardt. The triple tank meta was also spotted at the World Cup, mostly used by Finland, but of course, half of that team was compromised by Ninjas in Pyjamas as well. Now, of course, stuff like this Blizzard do like to keep an eye on, and I do feel that a lot of these changes that came in had something somewhat to do with the triple tank meta, and tried to make sure that it didn't become a staple in terms of a solid composition, if that makes sense. More damage is being thrown around than ever before in Overwatch, and of course, this affects stuff like Reinhardt Shield, which we will go over in a second. But the main point I want to go over is we have these really bulky HB heroes that not only have all of that, but have tons of armor, for example, or tons of active mitigation, and nerfing the likes of the Beyblade comp with the Nano Booster Reaper, it takes a lot longer for them to get their ults and to try and synergize that, and Mei's ult being nerfed as well. There's very little answer to actually shutting down these big fat heroes. But anyway, I just mentioned Reinhardt, so let's talk about how this meta has affected him and how the triple tank meta might change because of it.
Yeah, so Reinhardt is in a very interesting situation right now, and his viability is being questioned to some degree. So this is because of a few things. One, Sombra being added, and the hack obviously not allowing him to hold his shield up, which is a core part of the hero, adding to a sort of Reinhardt counter, and making his life a lot more difficult just overall. People will pick him less, people are already picking him a little bit less, but he's way too strong and too versatile and too established to really just be thrown out of the meta entirely. But yeah, soldier damage as well, and a lot of other damage that comes with this patch is obviously still going to be thrown around and going to tear down that Reinhardt shield over and over, making his job of actually defending his team a lot more difficult. So the shield will die fast, and because of all of this, the triple tank actual composition and which heroes are actually in that comp will probably change around a fair bit. So D.Va's been buffed and D.Va's doing a lot better now. I can definitely see her in a sort of triple tank comp. Winston was already good and is pretty decent against Sombra too, so I'm seeing Winston and D.Va there. And then maybe someone like Roadhog to bring in just a little bit more damage, utility and range into all of this. So that makes for this new sort of triple tank comp and lineup, which I think we will see to some degree in the upcoming meta, in Season 3, and in high-level competitive play and pro play. But yeah, basically, so what Ryan said before, the tools to actually deal with triple tank has been nerfed, and the lineup and heroes around the triple tank strat are just going to be changed around a little bit. But to try and answer the question of this video, I do think that triple tanks is going to be better than ever before, and it's going to be really solid in the next patch, so definitely look out for that. In terms of what should actually deal with this and how people are going to try and shut it down, Reaper has always been the answer, but without the nano boost speed boost, maybe this will change as well. Anyway, we'll see in just the coming week or two how it all pans out. But I think our point has come across with this video, so let's just sort of try and wrap it up and create some sort of conclusion, a verdict so to say, and also let us know what you guys think. Drop a comment below. Have you ran triple tanks in the past? What do you think about it now? What did you think about it before? What do you think about the patch as a whole? Just discuss in the comments below, and we're looking forward to reading it.
So, as a sum up, we've seen a lot of major changes this patch. Some of it may have been there to deal with triple tanks before, but it's actually potentially made it much more prevalent in the meta. So we've seen soldiers damage buffed, and a lot of people are saying that he's incredibly good right now, that he's king. Well, he doesn't really deal with triple tanks in a sense. What I do think we're going to see, though, is Soldier jumping in with a triple tank fun and taking the sort of last DPS slot in terms of that, because then you could still run an Anna nano boosted Soldier and so on and so forth. It's still early days in metas and compositions. Of course, we're no big fans of stuff staying the same and stuff being stale in team compositions and stuff like that, but we're very interested to see how it pans out. And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. Do like this video if you want to see more discussion videos like it. We've gone for a fairly different format, something a little bit more relaxed relaxed and more of a discussion. Not all of our videos are going to be like this, but if you do like this kind of content, let us know in the comments below, and we may approach some topics like this one as well. Again, as Miska said, do let us know what you think of the triple tank meta and whether you've been running it yourselves. And until next time, take care, we'll see you then.